Welcome to Story Matrix, another day, another story. Hey everyone. The Matrix update is complete, and today, we are stronger than ever before. The Matrix received a strange request from our viewers. It was to show them a true crime story. Weird, right? But the Matrix does not judge. It gives. Today, we talk about one of history's most inspiring true crime stories. Can you imagine anyone surviving 30 stabs to their stomach where their organs are hanging out of their body? And their neck cut open to the point they had to hold it with their hands to stop it from falling off? And can you imagine someone doing so after they are raped and thrown like garbage in a remote place? This sounds extremely sad, but at the same time, it sounds made up, right? But this was the horrible reality that 27-year-old Allison Botha had to live through. The beginning. Following a fun night out with her friends, Allison Botha had driven back to her apartment. But when she pulled up and was preparing to take the short walk into her home, a man with a knife stormed her vehicle. The male demanded her move to the passenger seat as he took his place behind the wheel, trapping her in the car. With Botha next to him, he drove to pick up an accomplice. The men, later identified as Franz Dutoit and Toons Kruger, drove the terrified woman to a deserted area well out of the city. This was where Botha was brutally raped, her stomach cut open, and her throat cut so deeply that her head nearly came off. But by some miracle she stayed breathing. The incident. After Franz and Toons were in the car, and Allison was driving, they told her they were going to rape her. These sick men wanted to play mind games on Allison. They asked her if she would ever resist them. Allison was so much terrified for her life that she said no, hoping the worst day of her entire life would end with sexual assault. But little did she know the horrors that awaited her. After the two men got off the car, they threw her to the ground and started raping her. Allison had no choice but to helplessly suffer through these as the men took turns with her. After they had their way with her, they decided to kill her off. They tried to suffocate Allison, but Allison never gave up and she didn't die. After this attempt to kill Allison had failed, these men did something that will send shivers down anyone's spine. But, before that, let's look at the background of these men and what prompted their actions. The killer's background. Franz Adrien Dutoit was 26 years old at the time of Allison's attack. He was the son of a police officer. He was raised with Christian values. When he was in 6th standard, he set fire to a hostel, because, he claimed, he was listening to heavy metal and was influenced by hidden messages. He was expelled, but his parents moved to another town the next year anyway. In the new town of Adelaide, he met a girl whom he claimed was a witch. He said that she conducted rituals during which demons manifested. At some point Dutoit claimed that he had become possessed. Dutoit was very lazy. He failed his classes and so his parents sent him to the army. Here, he failed again and was thrown out of the army. His parents later helped him get a job. He got married and had a daughter. He later left them, because his wife didn't satisfy him sexually. He was also fired from his second job after they found out he stole money from them. He later married another woman and had a son with her. From a third-person reference, Franz Dutoit's story sounds like a killer in the making, filled with success and failure. Let's now look at Toons Johannes Kruger background and what made him into a killer. He was 19 years old when he participated in Allison's attack. His father had left his mother shortly after she got pregnant. After that, her mother married multiple men. One of his stepfathers had molested him repeatedly when was a kid. At school, Toons was bullied heavily because he had 3 nipples. When he was in 8th standard, he claimed to have had an intense sexual relationship with a satanic witch. He also wanted to commit suicide when he was a kid, but he never went through with it. The horror after. Learning the background of these men, we know that both of them were mentally unstable and had real sexual issues from childhood. But, what they did to Allison Botha that night proved how much savages these men truly are. Toons was the first one to draw the knife. He took out his knife and stabbed Allison in the stomach again and again and again. He stabbed her about 30 times to the point where her insides were visible outside. Despite doing this, he had missed all the vital organs of the body. They wanted to carve out the reproductive organs of her body but thought she was already dead. Just when they were about to leave, they saw Allison's leg move a bit. This made Franz really angry. He jumped on Allison and started slashing her throat. He did this 16 times. Allison said that she could see an arm moving above my face. Left and right and left and right. His movements were making a sound. A wet sound. It was the sound of my flesh being slashed open. He was cutting my throat with the knife. Again and again and again. After this, both Franz and Toons decided that nobody can ever survive this attack. This was where they were wrong. A lucky chance and the sheer will of Allison turned the entire story upside down. After they left, Allison saw headlights through the plants and knew she had to get to the road. When she stood up, she felt her head roll backwards. She had nearly been decapitated. And as took steps forward, she could feel something protruding out of her abdomen. Her intestines were hanging out. Barely alive, Botha stumbled to the road using one hand to stop her organs from spilling out and another hand to hold her head in place. Luckily, a young veterinary student named Tion Eilert, who was on vacation in Port Elizabeth at the time, saw Botha lying in the middle of the road. His veterinary training allowed him to tuck Botha's exposed thyroid back inside her body before he called an ambulance for help. The doctors at the hospital were horrified at Allison's wounds, and one doctor, Alexander Ongalov, said he'd never seen such severe injuries. Botha managed to hold to her to life and make it through surgery. She also remembered everything about her attack and the attackers. She identified the two men from police photos while in hospital, and police quickly arrested the Ripper rapists, as they were known in the press at the time. Both Dutoit and Kruger pled guilty to 8 charges including kidnapping, rape and attempted murder. They were sentenced to life in prison in August 1995. Life after such an incident is unimaginable, right? But Allison Botha has turned it around and has found a new purpose in her life. She has now spoken in over 35 countries and is one of the first women from South Africa to speak publicly about rape. Allison Botha has helped and inspired countless survivors to come forward and tell their stories as well. I would like to ask the people who are plugged into the Matrix to share their stories as well in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.